All righty, good evening.
Let's
It's
start.
all right.
Let's start.
Good evening, everyone.
Thank you.
My name is Siobhan Sanders. I'm your PTA president. Thank you for joining us for our March PTA meeting. I'm glad you all are here. On our agenda for today, we have a guest speaker, Ms. Triana Downey from the Special Education Hub. I had the pleasure of meeting her at EdFest a few months ago, and she told me that she'd be more than pleased to come out to our school to bring us any type of information that we could use. So at this time, I will be presenting to you Ms. Triana Downey.
Hello, everyone. Hi, everyone. How is everyone doing tonight?
Great.
Good. I love to hear that. That is great.
I personally was very excited how bad it was outside today.
I don't know if anyone else feels that way, but it is what it is. I will make do. We'll be okay.
I think I said
Oh,
No.
yes. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
perfect.
Oh, where did the card go?
right.
Over there. Okay.
Right.
It was here and it just.
And actually started back
While we get this set up, I will also introduce myself. So hello again. I'm Triana Downing. I am the communications, and community engagement coordinator for the DC Special Education Hub. Essentially, we are an organization under the umbrella of the DC State Board of Education, here to support families, caregivers, community members about special education in both DCPS, DC Public Charters, whatever it may be. These are for families who have questions about special education, whether they've been in special education or received special education supports. Oh, yes, please. For years, those who are navigating it for the first time. We're just here to be a support service for you, entirely free, of course, because we are operating through the DC government. So any and all questions, please let us know. I will be able to stick around for a little bit after the presentation, and then also I have plenty of resources over there and plenty of swag that I have to get rid of because I cannot keep it in my car anymore. So balls, pencils, clips, all of our materials, please go and grab. And then I'm going to take like a 2-minute break to set up and share and get the slides ready for you. So give me 1 second. Thank you.
Sorry, your wages.
And while Ms. Dowling is finishing or getting set up, I will say we have interpretation in Spanish. Tenemos interpretación en español hoy desde la oficina de interpretación de DCPS. But right now, nobody here, I believe, needs Spanish interpretation. And we've put a note in the live stream. Hemos ponido una nota en la enlace de web, en la transmisión de vivo, de que interpretación está disponible. Si necesita interpretación, por favor, ponga un mensaje en el chat y vamos a tener una manera de hacer la interpretación.
You know, technology is fun. It does what it does. That's okay. You'll be hearing most of my voice anyway, so that's fine. Again, I'm going to go quickly over what I was saying before, but I'm really, really grateful to be here with you all. I have actually passed the school a couple of times because I live over near Newton, off of Georgia, and so I've seen the school many a times, and it's just a beautiful place, and now that I get to see the inside, very, very excited to be here, so thank you. Quick couple of of things. Whenever we do any presentations, trainings for our families, our caregivers, we just like to go over a couple of like house rules. So our values is that this is a community, but also special education as a whole is a community. So we appreciate that people have their own experiences. They come from different backgrounds. We just ask that you respect that. Confidentiality, please, if anything is shared specific to a family, a student, then we ask you to keep it within the room or within the live stream if that's where you are today. We also ask that you're curious. Ask the questions that you have, whether you think they're dumb or they're not. We want to make sure that you're asking the questions that you are pondering. And if I can't answer a question, then I will make sure to flag it for my team and make sure I get it to someone who does have the answer. And then lastly, it's just an easy one, just respect. So respecting anyone who shares, respecting the experiences of others. Just, again, respect, big one, but I think all of us know that. And then housekeeping, if you have any questions, please raise your hand. I say that, but also it's okay if you shout out. I don't really mind. Also, if you have a specific question that's specific to your student, the school, or a situation, I do ask that you try to hold it until the end because I love being able to check in one-on-one. And then if there are more questions or follow-ups that you need, then I'm happy to get your information and then make sure I check in with you either tomorrow or early next week to follow up with whatever you need from us. So this is our quick agenda for tonight. I'll introduce you to our team. I'll talk a little bit about accommodations and modifications and how they can be best used in the classroom or your student, and then also information on the least restrictive environment, specifically about the CES program, the Communication Education Support, which is a self-contained program here in the school. So if you have any questions about that, I'll be able to talk about that towards the end. So, Sped Hub, who are we? What do we do? How can we help you? So, we are a small but mighty team of 3. We are under the DC State Board of Education, so we are completely independent of both OSSI and DCPS. We also work with charter schools, so all the public schools. Again, being independent, we do get to work closely with the schools like today, but also please know that we're not here to represent a specific school or a specific education practice. We're here to just support families. We're here to answer questions about special education wherever they are in the process. We do this through a hotline that we have that's operated Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. We also do this in person and on our our in-person events like this one. We also do trainings in person, and then we also have virtual trainings and events. And then you can also head to our website for all of our information. Again, the hard copies are over here today, but if you need more information, it's all on the website. And we're really here to incorporate family voice and build connections, because at the end of the day, what we like to say is that special education is a community effort. It's community work, it's family work, and it's a team effort. And so if we can get everyone on the same page, then we make sure our students are having the best experience. So again, a little bit about our virtual and in-person groups, trainings, events. We are happy to present all of our information to peer-to-peer groups, nonprofits, PTAs like tonight, organizations, LEAs, anyone that asks. We have a family empowerment series. These are our trainings that address the top special education needs. And there is knowledge for anyone, again, those who have been in a special education experience for a while and those who have not. And again, we can also come to you. So it's always free. We're happy to come to you in person. We're happy to do it online. Just let us know when you need us, what you need from us, and we're happy to be there. A couple of the trainings that we'll do throughout the year. We have trainings about IEP goals, how to prepare for an IEP meeting, whether it be as a parent or caregiver, or even as a staff member or teacher. Parent rights, procedural safeguards. Those are safeguards. Procedural safeguards are rather rights that are specific to parents with children with disabilities. We have effective communication in special education. I mean, just across the board, so many. I think so far this year we've done even like 20, since January, I think we've done maybe 15 or so trainings, and that's just, again, across schools, organizations, nonprofits, whatever they need. Like I said, please connect with us one-on-one through our hotline. We are, again, operating Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. We are happy to speak with you in any language that you might need. So please don't let language be a barrier if you are worried that we're not able to communicate with you. And then, of course, we're also happy to communicate with you at our community-based trainings in the location near you. And then again, just to reiterate, if you need our services in another language, that is not a problem. We work closely with the language line so you can get all the information that you need. These are just a couple of different languages that we've been requested for. And over here, I have hard copies in both English, Spanish, and Amharic. And then Jasmine is our program support specialist, and she is wonderful, and she is fluent in Spanish. So know that if you call the hotline, most likely 9 times out of 10, it will be her, and she's happy to speak with you in Spanish if that is what you need. And then, like I said, on our website, we have comprehensive and accessible online resources for families. That's actually given in 11 different languages: Russian, Tagalog, Vietnamese, Chinese, whatever you might need. And these are just resources to have online to help you navigate special education. So advocacy information, early childhood education, transitions, what it means to go from pre-K to kindergarten, what it looks like for our students who are in high school going off to either college, career, or independent living. Let us know. It's all on the website. And just a lot of resources. And these can all be sent to you. They can also be found on the website. So you'll see there's some information about key terms you might want to know about special education, the least restrictive environment, how to prepare for an IEP meeting, the eligibility process. It's all housed within our office, and we are happy again to share it with you. We also did a video series, and it's found on our YouTube page, all about special education. Some of them are more specific, and some of them are pretty broad. What the eligibility process looks like, what a self-contained classroom looks like, how to prepare for an IEP meeting. They are both recorded in both English and Spanish with closed captioning. So please head to our YouTube page if you'd like to know more information. And specific to DCPS, we actually partnered with them in one of our videos to talk about locations of services for a least restrictive environment, which I'll talk about a little bit later. So happy to talk more about that. But if you also want to check out the YouTube video, it is also there. And then if you want our resources, please let us know. I have a literature request form that I check regularly. If you would like our literature, if you'd like me to drop it off to you, if you'd like me to email it, let me know. I'm happy to give you as many as you need in any language that you need. Just give me a little bit of time if there's a specific language that we don't already have in-house. But again, happy to share as much resources as we possibly can. Since our launch in 2022, we've assisted over 800 families in all age wards, pre-K 3 to 12. We like to say pre-K 3 to 12. However, if you have a question about your young child or an older adult, please don't feel that you can't reach out to us. We're happy to connect you with the right people if we can't provide you the service or the questions that you have. We've hosted over 80 community-based trainings and events across the city, and then we've published a variety of hard copies and digital copies in 11 different languages. And if there is a language that we don't have and that you need, let us know. We're happy to get that to you. Okay. Before I keep talking, any questions about the Special Education Hub? I know I said a lot, and that's a lot of information, but please stop me if you have any questions. Happy to gloss over anything that I might have missed. Amazing. Okay.
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure.
What's the process for simply intake? Like before an IEP exists, if the child is like, say, young elementary and is starting to get assessed, how do they enter into the special education program?
Sure. Like in a school or with us?
I don't know.
That's a great question. Okay, well, I will say this. If you have a question about special education, you've never thought about it before, you're wondering like where to start, please start with us. We're happy to talk with you. Our intake process is very simple. We do ask you a set of questions: your name, your student's name, where they go to school, what disability you might think they have, and then it's all in our database that, again, because we're government, we have to do an intake process, and there are things that we might ask you. If you are uncomfortable answering any, that's totally fine with us. But that way, we're able to have you in our database, share our resources with you, add you to the newsletter, whatever it may be, to support you on your journey. If you have, that's one intake, and that's within our office. If you have a child that you are wondering needs special education services, again, please start with us. We're happy to share with you what special education is, what it's not. But essentially how it starts is by a request, and it starts with the evaluation process. If you're wondering, who do I talk to? How can I get this request? It can be anyone in the school building. It could be the principal. It could be the social worker. It could be the student's teacher, their general education teacher, someone that you trust in the school building, and making that referral. I highly recommend, and a lot of families do have the recommendation, or when they do the first referral, I do say do it in writing. It's nice to be able to say it to a teacher or a principal, but some things get lost in passing or some people forget. So make sure that you either do it in a written note or an email, or even at something specific like their parent-teacher conference, whatever it may be. That's the first step. Then it goes into a meeting with you and the school leaders who will talk about why you might think there might be a specification for a disability. That's an AED meeting. Lots of acronyms in special education, so apologies on that. But that'll go into looking at your students, whether it be maybe behavior, maybe it's looking at some of their tests or their written work, whatever it may be, any information that you can share with the school and saying, well, I noticed at home, I've noticed a couple of stuttering instances and I'm wondering if that should be flagged. So that information is then discussed. And then it goes into either the school saying that, okay, we should have an evaluation, or let's hold off for a little bit. A 3-year-old might just have a stuttering, might just be stuttering because they are 3 years old and they're still developing. But it might also be, maybe we do assess and we come together and we say we need to do an evaluation. That's when the evaluation happens. That's a lot of information. I won't get into the nitty gritty, but that's essentially how it starts. It's a really good question. I'm glad it was asked. And we also do a training about how to start the evaluation process and everything that follows afterward. So let me know if you're interested in that. All right. I'm going to talk a little bit about accommodations and modifications. So what is its purpose, how can they be used, and how you might request them. So first and foremost, one thing to note is accommodations don't change what a child is learning, but they change how they are learning it. The accommodations represent a change in one or more of the following. So presentation, response, setting, and timing. So presentation, for example, the way information is shown. I see a couple of glasses wearers in the audience, and I wear glasses and I wear contacts. An accommodation for us, or for me, myself, is wearing my glasses. That's an accommodation, one. Or even when I was younger and I didn't want to wear my glasses, and the teacher knew that, she let me sit really close to the board so that I could squint. In hindsight, not a good idea, but it was an accommodation. She understood I wasn't quite ready to wear my glasses. I was mostly just embarrassed. I don't know why. But it was an accommodation, and it changed the way that the information was shown to me instead of being in the back seat or in the back part of the room. Response, the way assignments or tests are completed. Maybe they're not just written down. Maybe they're done orally instead. Maybe they're done by typing instead of writing. Whatever it may be, it's a different response. Setting the classroom environment. So some students, maybe if they're taking a test or they need a small group setting, maybe they're in a group with just 3 other students while taking a test or doing an assignment. Maybe they're separated from other students who are in a general education classroom and that they're a part of, but they just need to be outside with another teacher while doing an assignment or a test. And then again, too, timing, the scheduling of the time or time given to complete the task. So as a student who really struggled with math, I was given the accommodation for having 10 extra minutes in my time or in my class to be able to finish assignments or a test, or even sometimes for homework, I got an extra day. So those were accommodations that were given to me. However, I was in the general education classroom where I was learning the same thing as students who weren't having the same issues that I was. So who can receive accommodations. Students who have disabilities and have an IEP can have these accommodations. Students with disabilities who have a 504 plan, which is separate from an IEP plan, can also receive accommodations. If you think that your student might have a disability, requesting an evaluation to determine them for the accommodations is definitely the right way to go. If your child does not qualify for accommodations, ask your child's school what they can offer to assist their student. So extra practice is always a great one, whether it be after school, before school, or just like a couple more questions to work on during the class time period. Tutoring is always a big one. I know that we have a pretty robust tutoring program in DC, so that's always an option. After school help is always one that I requested when I was a student. These are a couple of accommodations that can be given, whether you have an IEP or a 504, or even if you do not have one. So just know there are still ways to be able to get support systems if it's not specifically accommodations. Yeah.
Can you explain just for the general audience the difference between IEP and IEP?
Absolutely, absolutely. So an IEP stands for Individualized Education Plan. Specifically, these are for students who receive, and for the basis of like wording, know that IEP is specifically special education. 504s give accommodations and support students with disabilities, but they're not specified as special education. IEPs are specific for students that need accommodations and modifications to their education. They might be in a general education classroom, but they have accommodations and modifications, which I'll talk about next, that are separate from students who have a 504 or do not have any disabilities. An IEP might classify a student to be in a separate classroom that's a self-contained classroom. They might be given services such as they might need to take one of the Aussie Department of Transportation shuttles to school. They might have a dedicated aide with them during the day, throughout the day. They might have a service dog if that's something that's needed. That's written in an IEP plan. A 504 is similar. However, a 504 plan is for the students who have needs but are still placed in general education classrooms. The best way I like to explain it is in a way, my sister, she has ADHD, or she has ADHD. However, she did not qualify for an IEP plan because it was not specifically impacting her ability to do work in the classroom. A 504 plan would have been helpful for her. She might be able to use a 504 plan to receive more time. That's an accommodation. But she didn't necessarily need a dedicated aide. She did not need to be in a separate classroom because her work wasn't being impacted. Another good example is for students who have disabilities that are short-term. So, for instance, a student who might have a broken wrist or a broken leg, 504 plan can be given to them so that they can get to and from school or to and from class with a little bit of extra time. Or a student that has asthma, a 504 plan is put in place so that they're not sitting next to the vent, but instead they're sitting close to a window. But an IEP plan definitely goes more in depth specific to a disability and gives them more accommodations and modifications for whatever is impacting their ability to do school. Does that make sense? Good. Okay. There's a lot more to it, but I don't want to overly confuse or overwhelm anyone. But please ask me any questions if you have any, especially after the presentation. I'm happy to go over the differences, and we also have some information in our materials that will explain a little bit more about IEPs and 504s. So how can modifications help, separate from accommodations? So modifications, if there are children that are far behind their peers and they're having challenges that's basic to or that's specific to the curriculum and they're learning, this is how modifications can help. So for example, a student might be assigned a shorter reading passage. They might have an adapted, independent reading level that's specific to them, or they might even have different homework that's separate from the rest of the class. That's a modification. Maybe they're still reading the same book, but maybe the book is at a different reading level. Maybe they're not reading the full chapter. Maybe they're reading the first page and then the last page of the chapter and doing a summary instead. That's a modification. Modifications can also help in testing, and it often means that students are covering less material or material that's less complex than their peers. So a spelling test might have 20 words, but then a modification modification is that there are only 10 words for that specific student, and they might have a different list of words than their peers do. And then also, sometimes an assignment in a class like PE, music, or art is unreasonable for your child. For example, if a student has cerebral palsy and they're in PE, we shouldn't be expecting a student to try to run, and I don't know if this is still happening, but like a pacer test, where they're expected to run it up and down the gym. That's completely, that would just be completely ridiculous to ask of a student and not think about what modifications they might need instead. Maybe for that student, physical education is physical therapy. So learning how to do stretches, learning how to modify different sports so that they can be able to play. But we shouldn't look at all students the same and say they all have the ability to do something because they're all students. That's not how it works, and that's why modifications are put in place. So who can receive modifications? These are students with disabilities who have an IEP. So specific, that's impacting students with disabilities that are impacting them and their ability to access the curriculum. This is not for students with a 504 plan. And if you are worried or thinking that your student might have a disability, again, requesting that evaluation to determine whether they need the accommodations or modifications is definitely the first step. And again, if your student does not qualify, there are still support services. They might receive accommodations instead because they have an IEP, and IEP students also receive accommodations. Or again, asking your school about what other support services there are. Tutoring, extra practice, extra help before and after school are also options. So a couple of things that I wanted to really highlight the difference between a modification and accommodation. A modification is to change what a student is taught or expected to learn, and therefore changes the content of the grade-specific curriculum. So again, you might have a student in second grade who's not quite at the second grade expected reading level, and so that student might be have a modified curriculum to be able to read at a kindergarten level. Maybe it's the same book, maybe it's not, but that's a modification for them. In the classroom, it might look like lower level text, alternative projects, adjusted curriculum, shortened assignments, and then an adjusted grading scale as well. For testing, these look like alternate state tests that might have fewer questions. The material might be different or interpreted differently or even graded differently. And then for our students with accommodations, in the classroom, it might be preferential seating. So again, students with glasses who have a 504 plan sitting close to the board, or a student with asthma sitting away from the vent. It might be scribed notes. Maybe they have a partner who's writing the notes instead of them. Maybe they're typing the notes instead of handwriting them. Maybe the instructions are done audibly, so they have something in their ear to be able to listen, or they're given video instructions. Partner reading is also a great accommodation if they're not quite there with the reading level that they're wanting to get to, but also maybe they're just not ready to read quite alone yet. That's an accommodation. And also frequent breaks, especially for our students with ADHD, being able to just take a break, get the wiggles out, whatever they need, that's absolutely an accommodation. And I love that one, maybe my favorite one personally, because I know we all need it, especially as adults. Oh, absolutely, for sure. Text and materials. It could be chunk tests. It could be teacher outlines and notes. And the use of a highlighter is also great information. And allowing typed answers is also an option for students that might need those accommodations. And then for testing, which I know is a big one. And accommodations, again, for students who have IEPs, 504s, they could be extended time. It could be a small group setting. So again, taking a student outside and having them work with a smaller group of 3 or 4 students is really helpful. They can have oral instructions instead of saying that the student, or instead of expecting a student to take the test by just getting the test handed to them. If the teacher can go over the instructions with them or each part of the test, can be very helpful for some. And then also tests at the specific time of the day. That's a different one that I know some people are not familiar with, but let's say for students that are really, really struggling with math, and the first thing that they think of when they come into the building is that, oh my God, I have a math test and that's really overwhelming for me. Maybe making the accommodation to have them take it after lunch when they're more relaxed, maybe towards the end of the day, maybe before recess or after recess. That's absolutely an accommodation and definitely recommended. Any questions about accommodations and modifications? There's a lot of text up here. I want to make sure that they're easy to understand. Okay. And then I'm going to talk about the least restrictive environment. So what does it mean and how does it benefit some students? So the least restrictive environment is a legal principle that states a special education student must be educated alongside their non-disabled peers and should only be placed outside of the general education setting when absolutely necessary. So this is actually coming out of, and I don't want to say recent, but before even the 60s, before IDEA, which is the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, students with special education needs were completely separated from their peers. Some weren't even in school buildings. A few of them were put in psychiatric hospitals because the understanding was, well, if they have a disability, then they're unable to learn, or they are a problem for our students who don't have disabilities. Or again, this idea of like, oh, they should be seen, but they should never be heard. This idea obviously is incredibly outdated. It's incredibly ableist. And so instead, being able to be in the least restrictive environment, the expectation that these students can be with their peers who are disabled or not disabled is the best practice for our students with disabilities. However, if a student needs extra support or support similar to other students with similar disabilities, the least restrictive environment is the best option. So LRE, I said historically, they've been separated from their non-disabled peers, and they've been denied the opportunities to be able to learn, and also have been mistreated and misjudged or judged because of their disabilities. If we can work together to understand how special education actually works, and actually studies show that putting students with disabilities and without disabilities together actually better help, or rather help students learn better, then that's the best option. And again, that's why we need LRE. Some wording that you might have heard LRE, terminology that's related, or again, something that you might have heard in passing, is inclusion or general education. General education is the setting that most students are in, whether they have disabilities or not. That's a standard classroom with maybe 20 or so students, one teacher, maybe a teacher aide in the classroom, especially for our younger students. However, then again, least restrictive environment, you might hear as self-contained, small group, resource room, and specifically for your school CES or communication education support. So when we talk about LRE, the least restrictive environment, we're going to talk about what options for LRE there is. We talk about this as a continuum of services. And I like this graphic. I will say Aussie had one that's a triangle, and as nice as it is, I think it doesn't really take away or really show that actual continuum. It is a spectrum, and actually you move up and down the spectrum. The idea is that we want students mostly inside general education. That's a least restrictive environment for some students. However, again, if there are needs that cannot be met within the classroom, then we move across the spectrum into a more restrictive environment. So the least restrictive environment, again, being the general education setting with 20 or more students, a teacher, maybe an aide. You have music, you have art or science, so you might go to different classrooms, but that's where you're going to be regularly for most of our students, especially our young ones, with the same group every single day, all day. Once you move across the continuum, then you move into the resource room. A resource room is where students are getting maybe one-on-one support sometimes, but mostly in a smaller group setting. That can be for a reading class, it could be for a math class, which is very common. If you have a math specialist that they work with, they might be pulled out with some of the students in their class, maybe 3 or 4 students to work with that math specialist or the reading specialist for the hour or for however long math goes. And then they return back to their classrooms for music or art or gym or whatever it might be. Once they move into a more restrictive environment, then we become, or then the students move into a self-contained classroom. And that's, again, a CES program, a BES program, that's behavior education support. That's where students who have similar disabilities are grouped together. They might have a smaller group. It might be 8 students or 6 students. It might be 2 teachers and an aide. Those students are all learning together and working together because, again, they have similar disabilities. So they're in this resource, or they're in this self-contained room together. In a more self-contained program or a more restrictive environment, there are non-public placements. This is specific to students who, if the school says we cannot offer the support services specifically in the special or the self-contained classroom, we know of a school that is able to support your student. That might not be a DCPS school or DC public charter schools. There are private schools, and then again, also called non-public placements that work specifically with these students with disabilities. These students or these schools are often, they're in DC, but some of them are in Maryland, some of them are in Virginia. And just know that if it ever, or if there ever is a situation that your student needs to be in a non-public placement, this is a conversation that you need to have with the school, the IEP team, with your school, and then also with OSSI, because OSSI then is in charge of making sure the finances are all set, the transportation is set for that student to be able to go to the non-public placement. This should not be at the expense of any parents or caregivers, because the school is saying we are not able to provide the services, so this school is. So please know it's harder to get a non-public placement. It's not impossible, but there's a lot of moving pieces. And again, that's a more restrictive environment. And then lastly, home and hospital instruction. This is also, it's less common, it is possible, and it's the most restrictive environment. These are for some students that are having any health issues. We have students that are experiencing, unfortunately, like cancers or diseases, and they need to be in the hospital while they are learning. If a student is in psychiatric care, they can also still be learning, but they're learning from the comfort of the institute that they might be in. So know that that's also an option, but that's the most restrictive environment. Now you'll notice that is 2 ways. It's not a stop or an end. The idea is that we always want to try to move back to the least restrictive environment, being in the general education classroom. That's not going to be for all students. Not all students will be in a general education classroom, but for some of our students, let's say for a student that's struggling in math and they're in a resource room in 5th and 6th grade, hopefully, or maybe by the time they're in 7th grade, they've gotten enough support services. They're ready to be in a general education classroom for math when they get to middle school, junior high, whatever you may call it. Any questions about the continuum of services and the least restrictive environment? Okay. Couple of quick things. Who and what determines the least restrictive environment for a student? This is specific to the IEP team. And when I say IEP team, the IEP team can be a couple of different people. It might look like the teacher or the student's teacher. It might be the student's aide might be a part of the IEP team. The student themselves, if they are either 18 or of an age where they want to be regularly a part of the IEP meetings, are also a part of the team. And then, of course, you as a parent or caregiver are also in the IEP team. And you all, as a team, determine the student's least restrictive environments based on their needs and whatever is documented in their IEP. So something that I do want to say for students who are in either the CES program here or in another school, do know that first, the least restrictive environment is also called for DCPS schools, location of services. So if you are in this neighborhood or the neighborhood next to that, or neighborhood next to this one, mine is Parkview, so I'm very close by. Let's say the elementary school that's right next to me, Bruce Monroe Elementary, doesn't have a CES program. but I have a student that needs to be in a CES program. My location of services, the least restrictive environment for my student would be here because of how close it is in distance. That's the location of services. That's where DCPS assigns you. If you have a concern or a problem with your student's LOS, location of services, it is not up to the school, but rather up to DCPS. It's a whole system. There is a way to be able to change your location of services. It's very rare, but do know that it's an option, but it's also up to DCPS. It's a system. I also want to say about the CES program specifically for Barnard. The CES is for communication education supports. So the idea is that the students as young as kindergarten up to 5th grade are getting extra support systems to be able to understand how to best communicate, whether it be with a tablet, whether it be using their words, they're learning how to process emotions. That's a great program for them, but not all students who have disabilities are eligible for a least restrictive environment like CES. Some students who might be working through behavior are specifically assigned to a BES program or behavior education supports. Some students are in ILS. There's a full list of the self-contained programs in DCPS and then a couple other slides. So know that if you have a student that has a disability and you're wondering what support systems are there for them, know that first, the least restrictive environment isn't the first option. And you want to talk about it with the IEP team. It should be a conversation that you all agree upon, and that there are other options, accommodations, modifications in place for students if they're not in that specific program. And like I said, so Barnard has a couple of different things. It's a DCPS school, so they have general education support classrooms, and again, that's with students who have disabilities and students without disabilities. Resource rooms for pull-out services. That's again the small group setting. Maybe you're with the teacher for a day or a little bit of part of the day, maybe an hour and a half, whatever it may be for whatever you may be working on. And then again, this communication and education support classroom. And again, that being a self-contained program for students with significant communication needs. Those are all free supports that students, again, who have disabilities and do not have disabilities have access to at this specific school. All schools are going to be different. On the DCPS website, which I think, next 2 slides or so, there's a website for DCPS that talks specifically about all the self-contained programs in the district, as well as what is called a feeder pattern, the school that will be the next placement for the student once they age out of either the elementary school or the middle school. So for Barnard, then if a student's still in the CES program, they will go to a different middle school with a CES program, and it won't be obviously Barnard, it will be their next placement, and it follows the location of services. Again, any questions about that or concerns, please let me know. I'm happy to talk with you. Yeah.
Does Barnard have co-teaching where the special ed teacher pushes into the general ed classes?
I can't speak for Barnard in that. Can you answer that question?
Barnard have where the special ed teachers. Absolutely. Yes.
Oh, good to know. Yeah, I didn't want to answer that question and be wrong. But yes, there are, many schools are happy to have either, again, it can be the special education teacher, or it could be the math specialist can also push into classrooms. Dedicated aides might be with the student for the whole day to be able to support them, or they push in for a little bit and then leave. But yes, thank you for being able to answer. I definitely do not want to give you the wrong idea. So a little bit about CES programs or classrooms. These are methods for teaching literacy and math skills for students who have significant cognitive disabilities, and it adapts the ELA and math curriculum that's taught in the school, and it matches them with their grade level standards. So saying that, if a student, again, is in 2nd grade, but they're not quite reading at what we expect to be a 2nd grade average reading level, they might be reading at a kindergarten level or below. That's okay. That's what the CES program is for, to be able to adapt the curriculum to best fit the student's needs. These are for students that may need help with life skills as well. So either it could be talking, making friends, behavior, communication skills, and again, the modifications and changes to their schoolwork, their extra support, and even the way that the teacher is able to help them. And then lastly, CES students can graduate with a high school achievement certificate, and that's a part of a student with a disabilities transition. Some students are not going to graduate with the typical diploma, high school diploma, or even move on to either work in or go to college or even work in a career. It is not always the case for students who are in CES programs, but it is more common. Some students will move on to middle school, still in a CES program or something similar, and then into high school as well, and they might receive a high school diploma, but know that specifically in most cases for CES, students are going to receive a certificate of completion is also what it is. And then again, for more information about CES and self-contained classrooms, these are the two websites. The DCPS self-contained classrooms list has all of the classrooms as well as the feeder patterns, what they are. We also have the video about location of services on the website with DCPS, so you can learn more about how that placement works. And then there's also plenty of contact information on the website if you have a specific question about a specific self-contained classroom. And then the academic programs and inclusion, that talks more about DCPS's commitment to inclusion and their programming for students with disabilities, has great information. I very recommend you go on and see what they've got. And before I answer any questions that you might have and wrap up, I do want to say a huge thank you for all of you for sitting and listening. I wish I was like a more animated person, like have like things to throw at you and stuff, but I don't. And I know it's a long day, so I can't expect you to listen to everything I say, but I always appreciate being able to come out, share the information that I have, be able to connect with families that have questions, concerns, even complaints about special education, because nothing's perfect. And we want to be able to support where we can, and without being able to do things like this, we have no idea what parents might need. So thank you so much again. I'll keep going real quick. What's next for our office? Unfortunately, I did not update the slide quickly enough. This first one, what was supposed to happen on Saturday was a training about empowerment, engagement, and advocacy for parents. We unfortunately have to cancel. However, it worked out so well. We actually worked with DC Child Care Connections, which is a government organization that works to provide resources and support about early childhood education for students, for like our young kids, whether it be daycare, whether it be parent classes. They have all the information, and we're actually doing a training with them. We're presenting the advocacy and engagement training on Thursday, March 28th, from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. That'll be over Zoom. And I'll be doing that one. So if you want to hear my voice again, please come and join. And then on April 8th, we'll be doing a training about effective communication in special education. This is a really, really great one for both parents, caregivers, and even school staff. I know how frustrating it can be to have concerns and then either not feel like you're being listened to, not being taken seriously. What are best practices to be able to reach the people that you need instead of emailing either everyone who works in the building or just the one person in the building that is also very overwhelmed with what they're doing. We'll be doing a training specifically to that. We are also happy to help you write any emails or write any IEP goals or IEP plans that you want to look over before you go into an IEP meeting. But know that will be talked about again, April 8th. That's a Monday night from 7 to 8 p.m. on Zoom. And then the last thing I'll say is this is our information. I very much so mean when I say, if you have a question, if you have a concern, if you want to know more about us, this is where you would go to find us. Our number's up there, our website's up there, our email's up there, social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, because I didn't know we had that, but we do. You can find us there. And then the three of us, again, small but mighty team. Hannah Blumenfeld-Love is our program manager. I myself, again, communications and community engagement coordinator. And then lastly, Jasmine Lopez, our program support specialist, and is the first form of contact. If you ever have any questions, concerns, and you want to give us a call, send us an email. She will get back to you right away. She is very speedy. and we are very grateful for it. But thank you again so much, and again, happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brown.
Thank you so much.
We appreciate
Of
you.
course.
No questions for Ms. Downing, anyone? All right, at this time, do you all have any questions for our wonderful principal, Dr. Reed? Does anyone have any questions? No? No one?
There's a lady here at the phone who has a question. Please, what is it? If the parents with kids with special needs or disabilities are going to be notified, if they were not present during these meetings, or they didn't have the capability to attend any of these class meetings or whatever, they're going to be notified somehow.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, if the parents or kids with disabilities or special needs are going to be notified, somehow if they were not present here, they're not able to attend these sort of meetings today. Are they going to be notified via email, or how do they have to take initiative themselves?
She has information available that she will leave at the school for anyone that has any questions, that needs information.
And if she, I mean, my information's up there, but I'm happy to share my information with anyone that might need it. If you're in the room tonight and you're like, oh, I don't have a student that has a disability, or I'm not worried about it, but you have a friend or a family member whose child goes to a school in Ward 7 or Ward 2 and might have a disability, please share the information with them, because you never know who might need it. But absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, good afternoon, good afternoon. I'd just love to push a little bit more on that question. If your child is at Barnard and has a disability or is considered a special needs child, you would definitely know that, because it's a referral process that the parents are involved in throughout the process. And even before your child is placed in inclusion or CS or whatever it may be, it starts with a referral process. And parents are involved throughout the process before a child is placed in special education.
And they have a case manager.
And they have a case manager who is in constant communication with parents about meetings and placements and whatever is needed for special education.
And if they don't know it, who do they contact? If they don't know their kid's case manager,
Thank
who do
you.
they contact at the school?
So right here at Barnard, one of our assistant principals, Dr. Vargas, Dr. Maribel Vargas, is the person who manages special education here at Barnard. And under her, we have 6 teachers who are all, well, 6 inclusion teachers and 3 CES teachers who are all case managers for the students who are in special education. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Reed.
See you.
Well, no, we had 2 questions in your email.
I'll tell you.
So, hi, everyone. I'm the Vice President of the PTA, Eliza Kava. Thanks, Dr. Reed, for joining us. So, Dr. Reed, we have started a new feature on the PTA website at barnardpta.com. Ask Dr. Reed a question. And you can also always email the PTA, barnardbearspta@gmail.com. You can always email Dr. Reed or walk into her office and ask for your questions. But if you, for any reason at all, would like your question to be anonymous, where you would like us to be sure to give them to her in a list ahead of the PTA meeting, you can use our form or email us, and we will give them all to her at once. So today we have 2 questions that came in ahead of time that Dr. Reed has already seen this afternoon. One is for those parents in Ms. Warner's class that had a transition, they were interested in what's the plan for the mid-year assessment and communication with parents. And the other is, and we did address this at the last PTA meeting, but any update on the art teacher progress? Has that position been filled permanently for the year, or if there's any other
So,
status?
thank you, Liza. So I'll start with the second question first. Have we filled the position for the visual arts teacher? At this point, we have a long-term sub in the classroom. There are resumes that are coming in, and we're looking at them. Currently, the union who assists with the personnel committee, they're updating and we have our union, our building right here, updating the personnel committee. What happens is that because we are halfway through the year, we are trying to make sure whoever we hire continues into next year. So we're not looking for a teacher at the end of this year as well. DCPS is allowing us to do early hires. They have not opened the pool of candidates who have come in for the 24-25 school year. That is going to be happening pretty soon. And we want to see who is in the pool as well, so that we're getting the best candidate for Barnard. And whoever we hire between now and then will continue as a permanent teacher for next school year as well.
It's great news.
Okay. The second question is about Ms. Warner's class. Let me say that Ms. Warner is on leave. Whenever a teacher is on leave, we have to, 1, find a substitute teacher, or 2, we can have a teacher in a category that is known as an NTE, which means not to exceed the duration of time until the end of the school year. When I was notified of the leave, which of course DCPS has in place for teachers if they get sick or if something happens and they need to be out, when I was notified of that, I immediately reached out to labor management and employee relations to ask if I should be looking for a permanent teacher, a not to exceed teacher, or who do I look for? I was told I could not fill the position because the teacher is on leave, which means she is sitting on that position, so there is not a vacancy. I immediately reached out to Dr. Olson and the early childhood department, and we were extremely, I want to say at this point in time, lucky to find an ECE teacher who is actually licensed and is actually a former DCPS teacher who is in the class. Okay? So at the middle of this, during last week when we were supposed to have parent-teacher conferences, she had a family emergency. She communicated with parents that she would not be available for those conferences before I was at a principal's meeting with the chancellor when I was called and told this. What actually happened was that we said, okay, fine. We're gonna go in with the coach, some of our more experienced teacher, make sure we assess the kids to see exactly where they are so that we can have informed information to give to our parents. This week, we went in, some of our early childhood teachers went in, they have assessed the students, and as of tomorrow, they're going to be scheduling parent-teacher conferences with all of our parents. Dr. Hetherington is the assistant principal of 30-odd years of early childhood experience, and she is going to be overseeing that. So you should be having a call tomorrow concerning when you will be able to come in for your parent-teacher conference.
Thank you for sharing that great information.
Any other questions?
Those were the only two we had ahead of time, so if you have time and ability. Questions?
Okay,
And we-
I'd just like to say, before I sit, a huge thank you to the PTA yesterday. I celebrated my 16th birthday yesterday.
Happy birthday!
Sometimes, my mom always says, give me my flowers while I live. And oh my goodness, I'm telling you, it was literally overwhelming yesterday. Thank you. Thank you. I went home, I had to jump in the bed. I was so tired. My kids, I tell you, you should see the notes that I have at my bedside that I'm reading each night before reading. And the things that were said, I was shocked. Thank you for making us feel heard. I never close my office door. My children can come in and speak to me anytime and advocate for themselves as well. And it was just heartwarming. One told me, you need to take the day off and go enjoy yourself for a change. But thank you. I so appreciate it.
It's our pleasure.
Thank you, Dr. Reed. And we have a couple of more surprises for you to come. Okay, just wait for them. All right, also on our agenda, tomorrow is our monthly produce market, the Capital City Food Bank, and also, above all things, next week on the 27th is our Black History Production. Only one day, that's next Wednesday, March the 27th, doors open at 5 p.m. You won't want to miss this show. Anything else? The tickets are $10 each, and we'll be selling them every day. You can pay by cash, card, in person, online. We're available, however you would like to
Let
pay.
me make a plug.
All right.
We need more volunteers to help us sell the tickets every day. So you can buy them online anytime, but in order for us to be able to sell them outside for cash, check, credit card, we could use some volunteers. So please, if you are available to help sell tickets to the performance, see me right after the meeting, and I will sign you up for a shift for Friday, Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, because we need you to help us make that possible. So, thanks. Thank you. We could do.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tiffany Reed. I'm the treasurer, and I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for coming on this beautiful day. Let me grab my notes. And Dr. Reed, thank you, and happy birthday. You're awesome, and we love you. One of the things that I wanted to bring up here is that we have great cash on hand in our bank account, $30,670 as of today. So we continue to have, great funds for the activities that we want to do. Our biggest expenses continue to be feeding our community and our amazing kids. We are supporting classrooms with food and snacks so they can learn and they're not hungry. We have also extended support to the Saturday school. So we provided some pizzas and some other snacks there for the kids that come in on Saturday to get some extra learning. So we've been supporting that. I know that Siobhan has supported Girls on the Run with some water and some snacks to make sure that they're hydrated for their running. And we've also been celebrating folks like Dr. Reed. So we've been spending some resources there, appreciating the amazing teachers and staff here. And and we've also been funding some cluster meetings that have been happening too here at the school and providing some snacks and beverages for that as well. So we've been busy out there trying to support the community. Of course, we'll have some bigger activities coming up And oh, I should also say we did big support for the Valentine's Day dance that happened in February as well. We supported with some decorations, some food, and an awesome photo booth. So those are our resources at work. The kids loved it, and so we are always looking for more opportunities to support them in the great activities we have going on here. So as always, let me know if you have any additional questions. And I want to switch hats and put my fundraising committee hat on and put a plug for also selling tickets and buying tickets for Black History 365 production. Remember that you can also put in an extra contribution when you buy your tickets as well. That goes towards the Barnard Care for Bears Fund. So if you do make an extra contribution, it does go to caring for our community. So we appreciate you for that. Also in April, we're gonna have our Double Good popcorn pop-up stores happening again. We did a trial run, our inaugural run happened at the end of January. It was a hit, but it was like a really quick thing and we didn't get the word out completely. So I'm here to tell you that that's gonna happen in April. You're gonna get an email that's gonna have instructions with plenty of time to set up your pop-up store to sell Double Good popcorn. Just a reminder that 50% of all the sales for popcorn come to the PTA and go directly to support our kids and our staff. So we know that that was really popular and that more people want to get involved in selling popcorn, and that's amazing. So thank you. Lastly, I want to give an update, switching hats again, Teacher Appreciation Committee. Thank you, Courtney Edwards, for your leadership on this committee. She's typed up an amazing report for you all today, and I'm just going to be brief. She's very thorough, but we want to just promote again that we are embarking on a teacher glow up project. We are looking for volunteers to help us. If you know anything about interior design or cabinetry or appliances, basically anything, we would be happy to have your help. So please go to our website, PT Board, and fill out a volunteer form for that. We would love your support. Also, just want to shout out that on March 29th, we're going to be honoring our coaches and art staff because March is Youth Art Month and National Athletic Training Month. So Courtney is on it. She is out there celebrating all of the amazing people. Yeah, so I think that is pretty much it. But thank you again for all your support. Yeah.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
For you as the fundraising committee.
Yeah.
Our committee planning to do a rummage sale on that?
That's a good question. That is TBD. I think we want to do a rummage sale, and I appreciate you bringing that up, Natalia, because that is something that typically has happened in the spring, and it is basically a yard sale, and the whole community helps out. So if you are interested in volunteering or want to help organize that, I know we've done it, I think, the last couple of years, definitely reach out to us and let us know if you're interested. Yeah. Thanks. Any other questions for me? All right, you guys are amazing. Go Barnard Bears!
Thank you, Tiffany. So again, t-shirt sales? So great. Is it any detail or just people want to know how?
Someone just wanted me to reiterate that the shirt sales also.
Thank you. Yes, so the t-shirt sales, which are not just the one that our children can wear to the uniforms, which are the white or gray with the circle logo, but also all sorts of other designs are available through our new partner, First Place Spirit Wear. That's a company that produces the t-shirts and sweatshirts and hats, shorts, bags, cups, anything you can imagine. And we get part of the revenue as a fundraiser, and you get as much choice as you want. The very first item when you go to that website, which you can see easily from barnardpta.com, there's a banner at the top directing you to it. When you go to First Place Spirit Wear, the very first t-shirt is the one that is uniform eligible in gray or white. All the others are fun spirit wear sweatshirts that you can wear the kids can wear on top, or anything that adults can wear. So thank you for those that have already bought and started wearing their new Barnard gear. Another announcement I wanted to make as the Vice President is the Strategic Planning Task Force. So I know some of you have big ideas about how an organization should run over time. We are a nonprofit 501c3 organization. We have PTA, we have a set of bylaws. We exist in service to the school, but it's very, at this point, it's very generically defined in our bylaws. We just have a generic set of standard PTA bylaws that are not tailored to what we actually want to achieve and do and grow and become. And that includes things like how many officer positions we have and should elect. It includes how does our committee structure work. So we have an opportunity to, as the year closes, propose some updates to our bylaws, and we can do it in 2 rounds, a set of updates that we might need right away so that we can stage elections at the end of the school year if we decide to expand the board. And also we can do a deeper dive over the summer. So if you are interested in that, please contact us. There is a form on the website, but if that's tricky for you to use, you can email us at barnardbearspta@gmail.com. And it's very important that we hear from everybody within the school community, especially if you are new to the school or you've been with the school for a long time. If you speak a language other than English at home, si habla un idioma diferente que inglés en la casa, por favor, hable con nosotros sobre este comité del plan del PTA. So we really want to make sure everybody is involved and can share their ideas. So that's the Strategic Planning Committee. The last thing I wanted to say is a big thank you to those who have made these meetings possible, as accessible as they can be. So Mr. Ryan Sherrill, known as Dad, he's our live stream tech, AV tech. Natalia Malamed is not speaking because she is taking great notes, our secretary. We'll send the minutes out afterwards. Tonight we have from DCPS sent us an interpreter, Mr. Piero, for the first time. If we had to consecutively interpret your presentation, we would be here until 9 o'clock. So we're so glad he could come, and he was very flexible with us. Thank you. Gracias. And more, Senora Canales, who provides the pupusas each month, and Ms. Broom and Ms. Gentles, who provide the extra child care. So thank you all for being part of this community and making it possible for as many people as can to come to these meetings. People still don't know that the meetings are in person on the third Thursdays of the month. So I want to especially ask you all who come, who are here on the live stream or in person, tell 3 people about next month's meeting. It's an unusual date because of spring break. We'll make sure it's well advertised in advance, but please tell your fellow parents. You can put it on the room parent chats that you're part of. Make sure people know about the PTA meeting so they can get all this great information and participate and share their ideas.
All righty. Are there any other, thank you, Eli. Thank you. You all have any other questions, concerns, suggestions, comments? Well, our meeting for March is adjourned. Thank you all for coming out. Safe travel.
Thank you.
Have a nice week. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. I got a bunch of
Your kids are in the ECA room.
I'm gonna grab.
Go get the kids.
Look.
Oh, yes, if everybody can take a couple chairs.